for more on this is Joel C. Rosenberg, editor of the All Israel News and a New York Times best-selling author, joining us from Jerusalem, and also someone who participated in that breakfast and I understand other events connected. This is a multi-day event. And Joel, I have to ask you, Mike Evans has been on this program. We've interviewed him several times. He actually did apologize for some of the language that he used in discussing Naftali Bennett, but he didn't apologize for the point he was making, that Israel could lose evangelical support because of its replacing of Benjamin Netanyahu. First of all, let me ask you, what are you hearing at that event, at that breakfast and these other events? Are those comments being addressed and answered by some of the participants?
Yes. Yes, Caleb. I think the fact that Mike Evans is the founder of the Friends of Zion Museum, obviously with many other people involved and a board and numerous financial supporters. But yes, Mike Evans built the Friends of Zion Museum, and it's a great museum. We love the museum. And it was strange to be there when Mike has taken has gone over the line. I consider Mike a friend, but I've challenged him on this privately and publicly. I think his comments are indefensible. I totally respect his love for his friend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And Netanyahu has done many amazing and wonderful things for the state of Israel and for evangelicals. But it's one thing to defend your friend. It's another thing to attack your friends. And that's what Mike Evans has done. And almost every speaker, not every, but many of them, not usually by name, but they said, listen, we totally disagree. There's been a controversy recently, but we stand with Israel no matter what. Whoever's the president, who's ever the prime minister, who's ever the government, we'll disagree with policies, but we do not believe that our love is conditional. It is unconditional love and support for Israel and the Jewish people. It was the theme of these last 2 days worth of events.
Now, okay, so one could take issue with some of the tone or the language of Mike Evans. Let's look at the substance of an argument. You say unconditional love, but the fact is, Benjamin Netanyahu did make a point of seeking support of evangelicals for Israel, of, in a sense, courting of them, of listening, of deepening the relationship that Israel had with them. Is there a possibility that with his replacement by this new government headed by Naftali Bennett, with also, we should say, Yair Lapid, and maybe also some other political figures less in sync with the evangelical agenda, that there could be some weakening of support from the community for Israel?
No, zero chance of that. What's interesting about this, Caleb, is that evangelical love and support for Israel isn't based on Netanyahu. It's based on the Bible. And it's not political, it's theological. It goes so deep in us. Now, that doesn't mean that when Ehud Olmert was trying to give away, half the old city of Jerusalem, including the Christian quarter, or that evangelicals aren't critical. On policy, evangelical leaders across the board are willing and able to be critical. We didn't agree on the some of us, I didn't agree with annexation. So I criticized Prime Minister Netanyahu for putting annexation for a while ahead of possible peace treaties with the Gulf. Fortunately, he course corrected, so God bless him for that. Look, policy is one thing, but the support for the state of Israel, that's what bothered evangelicals by the millions about what Mike Evans said. He was acting as though our support is politically conditioned. It's not. And I think you'll see that. Pastor John Hagee, head of Christians United for Israel, 10 million supporters in the United States. He just landed in Israel. He just came from the United Arab Emirates. He's meeting with Governor Nikki Haley, and they're going to be meeting with all the top leadership, including the incoming prime minister. I don't think you're going to watch closely for Hagee. If Hagee bails on this new government, then you've got a real story. Right now, Mike Evans, I love him, but I totally disagree with him, and almost every evangelical does.
Well, I mean, it's curious that you are even raising the possibility that Pastor Hagee would, say, publicly express displeasure.
I'm not raising that. I'm saying if that were to happen, that would be a huge story.
I understand. Then how do you explain, Mike? I mean, listen, the comparison, a lot of the commentary is relating to the support that evangelicals gave to President Trump, and in a sense personalized it in a way, their political support that almost went beyond ideology and really went on a very personal level to one particular political figure. Is that what you think happened with Mike Evans? That in a sense, if one can make a comparison, the way some evangelicals gave totally unconditional support for President Trump?
To a degree. Look, you have to understand, Mike was a huge fan of President Trump. Now Trump is gone. He's a personal friend of Prime Minister Netanyahu for 40 years and political supporter of Netanyahu's. And now Netanyahu seems to be leaving. And Mike lost his Facebook page with millions of followers. So that's a huge blow to anybody. And so, I can forgive him for getting emotionally, going over the edge on this one. But his point at the core is wrong. It's just wrong. Now, there will be evangelicals who are very bothered that Netanyahu is leaving. He is beloved by evangelicals. He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. He's probably going to win one. He should for the Abraham Accords. He has kept Israel strong. And no evangelicals, almost, they don't even know the name Naftali Bennett, much less Yair Lapid. They've never met them. Most leaders have never met these two. But as they get to know Naftali Bennett, what are they going to find? They're going to find the protege of Netanyahu, right? The same, elite special forces unit, huge business success. He has the exact same position, if not more to the right, than Netanyahu. So I think there'll actually be relief when they get to know Bennett. But this is Bennett's job and Lapid's. He needs to reach out, not just to John Hagee, but across the board. He's got a lot of catching up to do, both of them do, to build trust. It's not that they're going to lose support of evangelicals, but they're not trusted because they're not known. We can fix that. They can fix that. But Bennett and Lapid have to be very strategic and consistent about it.
All right. Well, we should know we spoke to one of Naftali Bennett's strategic advisors yesterday, reminding everybody that Naftali Bennett, of course, has roots in the United States from his parents. He lived there. He speaks fluent English, and he certainly has a pretty good grasp. Maybe nobody can match what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu brought to that role, but that is certainly reaching out to the evangelical community and maintaining a dialogue with them. That should be something that you would imagine Naftali Bennett will be comfortable with.
I think Bennett has all the opportunity in the world because he really was mentored by Netanyahu.
Right.
And even though Netanyahu's mad at him, that's because Netanyahu doesn't want to leave power. I get it. But Bennett will be a big surprise in the positive for most evangelicals, and that's Bennett's opportunity. Now he has to go build those relationships.
All right, and I'm sure that's going to be part of his a lot of his very busy agenda in the coming weeks and months. Joel Rosenberg, thank you for joining us again on The Rundown.